G'day everybody and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack Explores Australia. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're still hanging out in Australia, in Queensland, and before we begin, I hope you all enjoyed part 1 of the Saltwater Crocodile last week, as well as Safari Mack's Conservation Conversation special that we did last Sunday. But now we're back here hanging out, like I said, with the saltwater crocodile, otherwise known by the name of Crocodilus porosus. So today we're going to continue on, and we're going to continue to look into some of the wild things that these creatures possess, see some of the challenges and problems they face, and also see how conservation measures are being taken to help save these animals from extinction. But before we begin, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on conservation. And if you have a question or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, all you gotta do is just send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. So, we'll begin with the wild things. Now, it's pretty easy for us to think that because crocodiles are reptiles that they're fairly dumb animals, right? Or they don't have a whole lot of intelligence. Well, not necessarily. It turns out that with very little conditioning, it seems that saltwater crocodiles are actually capable of learning new tasks or even figuring out new migratory routes or other challenges to be able to help them survive. Another interesting thing, crocodiles actually swallow stones. Now I know what you're thinking, why are they swallowing stones? Well, just like in paleontology that scientists have discovered with some dinosaurs having swallowed stones as a theory of helping them to digest their food, it's estimated that crocodiles do the same thing to help grind up their food, as it's known that they don't chew their food, they just swallow it whole. Now, be careful around these creatures because their jaw strength is pretty immense, in terms of closing at least. It turns out that the muscles that open their jaws are relatively weak. So this is why crocodile wranglers or handlers, so whether it's crocodiles, alligators, caimans, they always manage to do what they can to shut their mouths, and then they put the duct tape around. That's because, thankfully, their jaw strength in going up is not the strongest. But they can exert a lot of force, at least 2,000 pounds per bite. So that's a pretty strong bite force. And if they lost a tooth, they can easily grow back another one in its place. And finally, because these creatures do strike from above, they can't really eat below the surface. They have to come up to the surface and lift up their heads to be able to swallow their food whole, as you can see this one's doing with this fish. Now we need to look into the problems and the challenges that these creatures face, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, Australia has become a super invasive land. And when I say that, what I mean is there have been a lot, and I really do mean a lot, of different species coming to this land that don't originally belong there. And I mean it's big, like foxes, cane toads. But one of the biggest problems for saltwater crocodiles is actually water buffalo. See, their activity, while they mean well, they don't mean to disrupt habitat. They're just only doing what they have to survive. But unfortunately, it's actually causing major damage and problems for saltwater crocodiles in keeping their homelands safe. Another problem these guys are facing is because humans are consistently moving into saltwater crocodile territory and converting it into agricultural use, such as the ranchers or other ways of farming, unfortunately, crocodiles and humans get in the way, and often so do the livestock. And often, these can lead to illegal killings of crocodiles to protect their livestock. Now, it's nobody's fault, each of us are only just trying to survive, but in terms of being able to coexist, it's not necessarily easy. And there's another major problem that I would like to show. So this is if we like action movies and if we like Dwayne Johnson The Rock, this is a scene from Dwayne Johnson's film Rampage with the gorilla, a wolf, and this crocodile that is named Lizzie. Unfortunately, to me, one of the biggest problems that crocodiles face is that just the thing is, they have always been seen and portrayed as monsters and just extreme man-eaters. They kill everything that they can catch, and they rip you apart and eat you. All that sort of stuff, right? You know, it's really not fair. It really just is not fair for crocodiles in general, or alligators, or even caimans. These creatures have had a long history on the planet. They have served well their purpose of keeping other prey animals or other problematic animals in check. So this is really kind of not always the best image to portray these animals. From whether it's Peter Pan crocodile chasing Captain Hook, to Lizzie, this heavily mutated crocodile, or any other form of man-eater, it's just not fair for them. Now let's go to some of the conservation measures that are taking place right now. So conservation measures include legal habitat protection, legal protection, community engagement, and research. Of course, if you're going to have effective conservation, you need to have good science to back up your research, to back up your findings. One way is you have to try to really limit how much of conflict that you have with these animals, especially in terms of poaching, because these animals were actually almost once thought to be hunted to extinction, but thankfully, the conservation has helped their numbers build back up. Even if it's not in quite the right places that we want. And when I say that, I mean like in human settlements. See, these animals, and don't worry, this crocodile's not getting killed. He's actually being relocated. See, the problem is when people and crocodiles or alligators live too close to each other, that causes problems because people often try to feed them or pet them or get too close. It's not right. It's wrong. It's very bad. These animals need to have a fear of us. That's how they are able to survive. We should be right to fear them, but they really do have more cause to be afraid of us. So with that, community outreach and public awareness is one of the biggest key tools of helping preserve crocodiles for generations to come. If we can do that, then these guys will continue to have a chance and be one of the top predators of Australia. So let's just go over some of it. One of the conservation measures that are being taken place right now is eradication of invasive species such as water buffalo and other animals, even such as feral hogs, who will sometimes dig up their nests and eat the eggs, therefore limiting crocodile reproduction success. So eradicating invasive species is one way to help save these animals and other native Australian wildlife, as well as being able to keep public awareness as a great tool, and just to make the people realize that these animals need to be seen not as monsters, but with caution, because we don't want these creatures to be knocked off into extinction for no good reason. And so I'm sure you already saw that little sneak peek that wasn't supposed to happen, but too late anyway. I would like to thank you all for taking the time with me today on the crocodile. So join me next week as we look into some of the more iconic species of Australia, the red kangaroo. But until then, this is Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.